Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Future Tech Podcast. It's me, Charlie Sell, the board director of Major Group, where I get a chance to speak to, share ideas, thoughts, insights from technology leaders, people who are just passionate about STEM, and ultimately promoting STEM to young people. As always, the podcast is supported by the STEM Ambassadors Association, shared across their network of schools and colleges alongside our website and LinkedIn. So I'm really pleased to have Nainesh Mehta with me today. Nainesh is the Director of Engineering at BPP, and BPP is one of the largest professional universities in the UK, vastly done online with a huge e-commerce or a tech platform that sits behind it, which Nainesh is leading a bit of a revolution on. So really good to have him on the show and to get his insights. So, Nainesh, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Charlie. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Let's jump straight in and tell us about your career story and how you got into technology.
Yeah, sure. I guess I haven't had the typical, journey into software engineering. Out of high school, I went into university, went into an engineering degree, and then specialized in what they call engineering science. Engineering science is sort of a mixture of all the engineering degrees. So, you do a bit of electrical, mechanical, mathematical. And then in your later years, you sort of branch out and specialize in a part of engineering science. And I went and specialized in something called operations research, which is focused on statistics and computer programming. And it's really around the optimization of resources and process flows, which are applicable to real world challenges such as profit maximization, performance or yield, trying to minimize cost and risk management. So I went through that, did that, got my degree, came out of university. Turns out there weren't many jobs in operations research in Auckland at the time. And I was a bit stuck, didn't really know what to do. And I had a friend of mine, a colleague that was in my class, who was running a software engineering company, really small outfit. And he offered to take me in as an apprentice and see how I could do. And, within a month I was writing HTML and JavaScript and CSS. And then, sort of within 6 months writing code with .NET, the very first versions, and, leveraging the sort of Microsoft tech stack. And it turned out to be something that I really enjoyed, and ended up being there for about 5 years, learning everything from how to configure web servers all the way through to, writing the code, supporting clients, understanding, what the product requirements are, and turning that into software that we would ship out to our customers. So yeah, stayed there for 5 years and then sort of decided to come out here to the UK, and really, see what it was about, do a bit of that, what do you call it? I guess, overseas experience that a lot of Kiwis do from New Zealand. And yeah, sort of came to the UK and had quite a successful career. There's a lot more opportunity here in the UK, and I ended up working, across a vast range of industries. So everything from TV to agency to ticketing, real estate, to e-commerce, through to media and publishing, and then now into education, where I am at BPP. So yeah, that was sort of my journey into software engineering. And yeah, I started to get a bit more into the management side of things really when I arrived at Easy Roommate, which was a platform that allowed you to find rooms to rent. And if you had rooms to rent, you could advertise your place there, and people could find places to stay. So I went into a leadership role there, to head up a team, and learned a hell of a lot in those years, coming up to where I am now, and still continuing to learn. but yeah, I guess in a nutshell, that's sort of how I ended up in where I am today.
Yeah, fantastic. And I guess so. Would you say UK is now home for you from coming all the way over from New Zealand?
Yeah, I mean, I've been here for 17 years now. Really enjoy it here. Like I said, there's a lot of opportunity here. I've done very well for myself. Had a lot of great experience through the companies that I've worked with. Got a really good network of people here as well. And yeah, I'm really loving it here. Got family. I've brought up the kids go to school here. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
it is sort of what we call home now.
fantastic. And what's lovely is hearing about how you moved into leadership. Because obviously, well, for many of our listeners, we've known each other for quite some time, and we've worked throughout the various businesses, have had chances to work together. And one of the things that has always stood out with you is your passion for people, like your authentic approach to leadership. And some may say, the Kiwi sort of laid back type tone can help. But what I've seen, knowing the teams that you've led, is how you put people first, and it feels like that's very much one of your DNA. So talk to us a little bit about your belief in terms of being a leader and developing people who want to get into STEM. How do you believe is the best way of building high performing teams?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, look, I firmly believe that you can't really have a successful business unless you have really good people around you and you're working with really good people. People are what drives positive change, and essentially people are what delivers your business value. And so, yeah, look, in terms of I guess something I say on LinkedIn is that I'm a people first leader. I always put people first before the work to some extent, in terms of always making sure that the people in my team are fit and healthy. They're looking after themselves, have a good work-life balance. Really making sure that we're aware of their mental health and we're managing it and making sure that it's under control, and if there are problems that we deal with them as early as possible, and we give I'm very much around supporting people when they need support, um, because ultimately you want everyone in your team to be fit and healthy and happy in what they're doing, and so yeah, I take that approach, and I really invest in everyone that comes to work under my leadership, wherever I am. I'm very big on, having things like one-to-ones in place, making sure that we're talking all the time, managing your career path and your progress, and actually just understanding what it is that, people in my team want to do. What are they passionate about? What gets them out of bed in the morning? And really trying to set up, a plan to get them to where they need to be. And then anyone in the leadership role that works under my team also does very similar things around making sure that we try and do our best to grow absolutely everyone that comes to work under my leadership.
Yeah.
So that could be anything from training through to just giving them the right tools and the resources that they need in order to really master their craft, and really get to a point where they're really enjoying what they do.
Yeah. And it's so obvious and clear when you speak that there's that's totally authentic in who you are. And the day that we're recording this podcast is the day after Mental Health Awareness Day, isn't it? So it's really
That's
apt
right.
that you've talked about mental health being also part of the duty of care for teams, because it's very real, isn't it? And the life has progressed from 5, even maybe even less, where it's not something that we tend to acknowledge in business. But today, that care of people above and beyond, just the job is super important. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It is. It's quite a prominent topic now in the workplace, mental health, and a lot of businesses are now got the right processes and tools in place to help deal with that when, colleagues are suffering with mental illness. And it's really important, right? Because if you don't deal with it, it's not a great thing to be part of. It's terrible, actually, the impact that it can have on people.
Yeah, yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. And what I also loved about what you're talking about, because I call it subservient leadership, but it's putting that people first. Our job as leaders, I feel like we share the same values there, is that, we're there to serve or to support the people around us. And if we put them first, that's how you get the best out of people, isn't it? Rather than the top-down approach of dictating or trying to push people down. And there's an expression I've always loved, that leaders will always hire people better than them. Managers will always hire people worse than them in fear of job preservation and these sort of things.
Yes.
Does that resonate with you when you think about the teams and the people that you've employed?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, one of my very first or early on bosses told me this a very long time ago when I first went into leadership. Actually, he's like, I want you to do your job better than, he said, I want you to do my job better than me, and that's a precedence that he set right from the outset. And that really stuck with me, right? Like just hearing that and knowing what that actually meant. Because the way he put it is that, well, if I can get you to that point, then I've got more time to then go do my more strategic part of my role that I need to do, which is absolutely right. And I'm of the belief that, when you are hiring people into your team, you're looking for obviously really high quality talent. And look, I know where my strengths and weaknesses are, and if I can bring someone in to complement those, and that's a win-win, not just for me but for the business as well, and the team, the surrounding team, right?
Yeah, and again, I just couldn't agree with you more. And that complementary skill sets is so key to also building high performing teams, when the teams can actually support each other
Absolutely.
rather than having all one type of expertise or one type of even personality or culture. That blended team, diversity of thought as much as anything else, creates new ideas, doesn't it? And progress, I guess, within engineering.
Yeah, of course. Look, diversity is really important, right? And I'm very big on making sure that anytime we interview people, especially at BPP, we take a very unbiased approach to interviewing, and we sort of put in processes and in place where we can make sure that we're doing the best that we can in that space. And yeah, look, diversity brings helps drive culture. Brings different ideas, drives creativity, and software engineering is a creative. It's a creative thing to do, right? Like you're writing, building, designing something. And diversity helps you really drive the creativity, I think, when you're building products.
Yeah, yeah, and again, I just couldn't agree with you more. And it's nice we've moved on to sort of the work at BPP, because one of the topics I was keen to talk to you about was transformation. What I've known about you throughout the time that we've known each other is that something that really gets you out of bed, isn't it? The projects about change and transformation and really trying to make something better from when you started it to when you finished it. So talk to me a bit about the transformation journey and whether that's with BPP or News UK or examples of what you've done.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think in my career, I've really come to appreciate, putting the customer first. And really from a product and design lens, really understanding how a customer uses a product and make sure that the customer has the best possible experience for using that product, right? Because when you do create that, you get brand loyalty, which drives then just repetition of people using your products and services, and then also talking about it and growing that sort of audience size. And yeah, so for me, in terms of what we're doing at BPP and in our transformation journey, we're trying to reimagine the student experience. Because if you think about a student these days, I mean, like I remember when I was a student, we never had phones. Not many people had, really laptops. But you think about how a student goes to university these days, and a lot of what they do is driven through the apps and products that they use that we provide for students. And what we're trying to do is really make the students' lives a much easier than they currently are. For them to be able to, get on an app, log in a day, look at their timetable, maybe message their tutors, look at messages from tutors coming back to them. They can look at where the courses have been moved around, what rooms are they in. A lot of that sort of experience that enables a student just to have a better quality of life at university is what we are in the process of doing right now. So, BPP's been around for a very long time. And, what we're doing is we've looked at the existing business processes and the tools that are in place. And we've identified, a number of opportunities where we can really improve the customer and student experience. And so at BPP, we started by doing a deep dive and talking to a lot of students and tutors to really understand, where are the problems, what's the low-hanging fruit, and then, out of that, understanding that sort of problem space, we created a roadmap. And through that roadmap, we prioritize the things on that roadmap, discussed it with the business, and then built teams around to help us deliver that roadmap. And so we're in that journey. And then, on the software engineering side, some of the big decisions that we made were around the technology that we wanted to build, the future tech stack for BPP in. And, when I arrived, we were Ruby on Rails, PHP, some old .NET. We had a plethora of other sort of technologies and tools in the business. And so we've started to look at sunsetting some of that and replacing that with a much more modern tech stack, which is sitting around sort of TypeScript with React and Next on the front end, and then in the back end, using Node and Python, using technologies like GraphQL. We're going all in on AWS, so making sure we leverage as much AWS technology, native technology where we can. So looking at serverless tech, and then making sure we script absolutely everything. So using technology like Terraform to script all of our deployments into AWS and our provisioning. And then bringing in tools that BPP has never had before, things like New Relic, so that we can observe and monitor our platforms, tools like OpsGenie that will run our incident management or automate our incident management process. And yeah, we're just, we're on this journey to bring in the right tools and tech to really drive the business forward. And actually this week, we are about to do our very first release out of this team that we've built. So that's quite exciting. The early feedback's been really positive from the students that have played with the beta version of what we're about to release. So really looking forward to that. And we are moving at 100 miles an hour at the moment. We've got a lot of work ahead of us, but exciting times because, what we're doing to improve the student and tutor experience is really going to be quite groundbreaking, I think, especially for BPP. And, we're leveraging modern data technology to really move into a data-driven decision-making business. And you can't do that if, it takes a long time to get that data in front of you, but now we're massively accelerating in that space.
Yeah.
And then, look, going on from that, obviously leveraging generative AI. We're looking at that right now, and a few other things that we've got to look at, which is quite exciting as well.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And then, as you say, even, what's been so fascinating is over the last, post-COVID, the digitalization of pretty much every industry in the world now. But, BPP, as you say, an education company where when we all at university, exactly as you say, the how it's moved on, every industry, if they're not digitalizing, if we're not embracing new tech, we'll get left behind, won't we? And for a lot of our young people listening and thinking about careers into STEM, it feeds really nicely into why, I'm specifically passionate about it, but I know you are as well, that STEM is a great starting point when people are thinking about careers, because it really does give you foundations, whether it is technology or going into sciences. It's the future is understanding where life is evolving. And so, as always, time flies by, and we've got to that part of the podcast for career advice. And so, what are the one or two bits of advice you'd give a young person when they're trying to get into a career, specifically within technology, um, that will allow them to sort of maybe stand out or have that early success?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think first and foremost, you really do need to enjoy what you do, right? I am firmly of the belief again that, if you don't enjoy what you do, you're probably doing the wrong thing. Um, and so, yeah, first and foremost, enjoy what you do. Be passionate and have a want to master your craft. And the way that you do that is, especially coming in as an apprentice or a junior technologist, ask a lot of questions, be really curious, because no question at that point of time in your career is a silly question. Ask questions, and don't be afraid to do that. Because people in your team will always be willing to help, and upskill you and give you the knowledge that you need to be successful. And then, sort of as you go on, start getting involved in meetups and building up your network. There's so much resource out there now, to really help you upskill yourself, and if you're looking into software engineering sort of career, you got things like YouTube, HackerRank, Code Academy. There's a lot of free resource that, you can leverage now to really upskill yourself and move yourself at pace. And I'd just say take advantage of all of that knowledge around you, the people and the resources that we have available to us this day and age. But look, I'll come back to, what I started with is you must enjoy what you do. You've got to be passionate about it. And that's how I believe you excel in your job.
Yeah. And I think that's such a good point, because it is the fundamental building block, isn't it? You've got to be passionate. You've got to enjoy. And that doesn't mean every day is going to be a great day or every week is going to be a great week. But fundamentally, if you don't believe in what you're doing, life is too short, I think is an
Yeah,
expression I also
exactly.
say. And you'll never be your best self, exactly as you've just said. You've got to find that passion. So, well, Nainesh, thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast. It's been really insightful, not only to hear your thoughts on leadership, but also the transformation projects and the exciting stuff and being able to transform tech stacks and what you're trying to achieve to put the customer first. And that career advice is just as priceless. So thank you for being a guest on our Future Tech podcast.
Thanks, Charlie. Really appreciate it. It's a real pleasure to be on here.
And to our listeners, that's another episode of our Future Tech podcast. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, the podcast is supported by the STEM Ambassador Association. It is shared on our website, Major Group /podcast, and also on LinkedIn and Spotify. So thank you for everyone listening or watching the podcast. And this is another episode.